I turned 25 last month, which means that it has been over 12 years since I initially started my weight loss journey. In a recent podcast by Dr. Mike, the guest actually talked about how a lot of people that are overweight or obese are going to lose a substantial amount of weight throughout their lifetime, but the so-called unicorns are those that actually maintain that weight loss over their lifespan. This is why today I'm going to be sharing with you my entire weight loss journey and everything that I've learned along the way, along with some strategies that I implement until this day that make this more of a lifestyle and also help me to not exert a conscious effort every single day in trying to maintain the weight that I am at right now. A very big disclaimer, I'm going to be talking dieting, calorie counting, disordered eating, and also some numbers around my weight. So if you feel triggered by any of those topics, feel free to click away. But for the rest of you, let's get right into the topic. To begin with, I was never really an obese child. When I look back at pictures from my very early age, I am not too thin, I am not too big, I am at a very healthy and normal weight. I was also not living in a very highly obesogenic environment. Both of my parents were at a healthy weight. My sister also was at a healthy weight. We were eating mostly home-cooked meals, which I am very blessed to have experienced. My mom cooked a lot. She still cooks a lot, and that helped me both enjoy home-cooked meals a lot more than I enjoy takeaway, but it also gave me an idea of what balanced meals can look like. Just to mention, my mom was never an almond mom. She was cooking a lot of basic Balkan meals, but she also really liked to experiment in the kitchen. So we were eating a wide variety of vegetables, fruits, meats, dairy. We were eating all of the food groups. Fast food was more of a treat. I talked about this also in my Slavic diet culture video. We did not have that many fast food chains in the country at the time, even in the bigger cities, so there was not that much of an exposure factor. When you look at different obesity factors for children, there are a lot of factors, but two big ones are the lack of physical activity, or let's say the lack of access to recreational areas where children can play more and be active, and the second one is the availability of food for the children all of the time, and I think both of those contributed. On the topic of lack of recreational areas such as parks where children can play, we lived in the second biggest city in the country and also in an apartment building, so you can see how it is already a bit more restricted, the access, compared to the one for children that would live in the villages. The pivotal point was maybe one summer, according to my mom. From what I've heard from her when I have asked about what happened, like why did I gain weight all of a sudden, she says that one summer we were sent away with my sister to my grandma's. She used to live in another city, and when I came back I was definitely a lot bigger than I used to be. According to everyone, I really enjoyed those sugary candies a lot. They're just basically colored sugar, and I used to stuff my pockets with those, so I was consuming them all of the time. Of course, this would lead to weight gain. Those are very high amounts of sugar every single day, and this is again not the same as the normal weight gain that happens to children. I learned about this when I was making this video, that children between the ages of 4 and 8 do have some kind of a rebound weight gain because their BMI shoots up after lowering in the toddler period, but this is not that. I gained a substantial amount of weight that was not normal for my age, and this continued up until the age of maybe 12. When I was at my biggest, I was maybe 67 or 68 kilos. I do not know what my height was exact at the time, so I'm just gonna put some estimate right here. I had no physical activity in my life at the time. We would be enrolled in some sports sometimes and mostly dance classes, but nothing really stuck. I was also attending English classes and trying to do all of my homework for middle school, but honestly I just did not want to participate into any physical activity. I was just gifted my laptop and I was binge watching the X-Files, reading fanfics. I was on online online avatar chat rooms such as IMView and Woo's World. I couldn't care less about physical activity. I was completely fine with my hobbies at the time. And this was the case until there was this kind of community formed in my class. We were a lot of girls. We were 22 girls, and about half of us were overweight. We formed this group, I suppose, that wanted to lose weight. And when we started talking about this more, somebody, I have no idea who, proposed this weight loss app called LifeSum. It's a basic calorie counting app that just does the math for you. You log in how much weight do you want to lose, and it gives you your caloric intake that you should follow if you want to lose that amount of weight for that amount of time. The downside is that it does not say if this is a healthy weight loss goal or anything like that. It just gives you some numbers, and you see how this can definitely backfire, especially for children. We were basically children that just want to lose weight and have no knowledge of what nutrition is and which foods are more nutritious and which foods are less nutritious. This is why I have such big beef with portion control. Essentially, what all of us were doing is portion control. By the way, this is kind of peak Tumblr Teenspo era. This is maybe 2012, 2013, something like this. This definitely also helped amplify all of these behaviors. I was eating maybe 1,000 calories per day. This is what my deficit was. That for a 12-year-old is just not enough food for a body to be able to develop and go through puberty properly. My period was all over the place. I think I had gotten it maybe like 1 year before that, but it was never regular. It was always late by 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. At the same time, I remember some of my meals would be maybe 1 meatball per day and also 2 slices of pizza maybe. There was no physical activity at all. As I said, I was really online most of the time. You know, when there is this community formed, you're reinforcing these behaviors inside the community. One girl in our grade actually was talking about how she ate 1 piece of cake for the day and she was bragging about it. She also lost a very large amount of weight. Her period had been gone for 3 months, but who cares, I guess, when you're losing large amounts of weight. She was posting about the weight loss on Facebook and yeah, all of that. And this is where the big problem is. When you're losing weight this way, you're not at an unhealthy weight, but you could be very unhealthy. She was not too thin. She was at a healthy weight when she lost her period. Editing Clementina here. If anybody is wondering where were the parents of those children or where were my parents at the time, I want to say that there was indeed cooked foods for me and my sister at all times, but you think that when your child is already 12, 13 years of age, you can trust it to eat the food that you have prepared for it and left in the fridge. Both of my parents were working at the time, so you can imagine that they cannot look over my shoulder all of the time and make sure that I have eaten my lunch, and they also wouldn't think that I would be eating so little, especially if I have had quite the appetite until now. I mean, my appetite is what got me to this point, right? I hope that explains the situation to you, and I believe that it would be something similar for the other girls in my class that were in the same situation. This is something very sad to even be occupied with when you're 12 or 13, in my opinion. You see how portion control can definitely be taken to the extreme, especially if one does not have enough knowledge about nutrition. If you want more information on portion control, on how to do it correctly, you can watch my portion control video that I did a few months ago. On a positive note, from the entire tracking experience, I gained some calorie awareness, and this is knowledge that does not go away. When influencers tell you that they do not count calories, but they used to, but now they don't anymore, this is very misleading, because that means that they have the awareness, so they can estimate how much they eat throughout the day without having to log everything into an app, but that does not mean that they do not know how much they are eating. And it is the same for me. I do not consciously calculate it every single day, but you kind of create a system in knowing this amount of food is that much and I should eat this amount of food to maintain this weight. And you kind of build the habit of eating that much, and it becomes a lifestyle over time. So calorie awareness per se is not bad if you want to lose weight. The main negative side is when it is taken to an extreme. I mean the calorie deficits, of course. Another very positive thing from this entire negative experience is that I cut out all of the sugary drinks that I used to consume, and I used to drink maybe 1.5 liters of sugary iced tea per day, those huge Nestea bottles, instead of water. I did not drink a lot of water back then, and probably if I had cut only that out, it would have led to a substantial weight loss. Those are a lot of calories and a lot of sugar just from my liquids for the day, and it is definitely something that you learn to implement. It becomes a habit, and up until this day I do not drink sugary drinks. Maybe it also helps that my parents never really allowed us to drink fizzy drinks when we were little. Any types of sodas were not allowed at home, and I also do not crave them up until this day. Moving on, I lost a large amount of weight over time, and by the time I was in high school, so it's 2014 now, I was a lot thinner. And I was also a bit taller. I was maybe 53 kilos at my smallest. For the first year of high school, I did not gain anything back because I was, I guess, kind of in a depressive episode because of an unrequited crush that I had. I think it's a canon high school girl experience. My guess here is that I just didn't have a lot of appetite during that time because, again, there was no physical activity implemented, but I did not gain any weight. After that, I slowly started gaining the weight back. The basic yo-yo effect, nothing new under the sun. A lot of people have experienced this if they have tried to lose weight in an unsustainable way. By the way, I had stopped tracking a long time ago. Maybe once I was thin enough for my perception in high school, I removed the app and did not engage into those behaviors anymore. I started noticing that I have gained some weight when pictures were taken of me from my friends. I would ask them to take pics for Instagram for me, and I would notice that I am not as thin as I used to be. So there was something to be made about this situation. This is where I took the first steps towards building a habit of being physically active. I started doing some cardio workouts on the elliptical bike. We had one at home. And I also started doing home Pilates workouts on the mats before it was trendy. That's why I don't do Pilates right now. I've done it for maybe 2 years back then. And when you start working out like this, you lose weight gradually. It was nothing rapid. It did not happen quickly. Just over time, I lost a few kilos, and that was a healthy weight loss in its sense. It also helped me gain some strength because Pilates is body weight resistance training after all. I was getting slowly into resistance training. Once I got bored of Pilates, there was also at the same time a rise in Gymshark influencers, so I really wanted to become like one of those girls that were working out. I liked also how they looked. I wanted to look like that and build some muscle, but the gym environment in Balkan countries before maybe the past 2 or 3 years is not really a friendly place for women. If you have been there, you know that if it is not the most expensive gym in the city, it is going to be first of all very ghetto. The equipment is going to be old and rusty. Second, it is going to be mostly men there that are probably going to stare at you because you're the only woman at the gym. And the third thing is that it is going to be very small. It is probably going to be the size of my apartment right now, which is 40 square meters. That would be the size of the gym. So you are very much up into each other's business with the other people that are in the gym. Therefore, it was not an option for me at the time, and I had just to push through the home workouts until I move out from home. At the same time, around the end of high school, I tried out intermittent fasting, but I never really did it exactly as it should be done. I was trying to do 16/8, but I was not really into skipping my breakfast, so I brought my breakfast to school and I could not resist, and I would eat it around the 14th hour or maybe like the 15th hour, but never in the 16th hour. But the positive thing here is that I started drinking my coffee black because I was forced to in the morning before school. I could not have any sugar with it because it would break the fast, and I learned to enjoy it over time. It was a very hard thing to do at first. It was disgusting, it was very bitter, but after that experience I stopped enjoying coffee with sugar. Right now, up until this day, I drink it only with a splash of milk because I don't fast anymore, so I don't have to drink it black. Cutting out that morning sugar definitely adds up over time. If it is a small adjustment that you can see yourself doing, then why not? But nothing really changed up until university. I was more or less at the same weight that I had lost after incorporating some physical activity. Although my physical activity habits were not perfect, I was maybe doing 1 or 2 months of consistent training and then I was off for 1 or 2 months, so it was not exactly as regular as it is today, but again, it was still one step in the right direction. After I got out of high school and I moved out where I'm right now in Austria to study, it was the first time in my life that I was free to make my own choices regarding my breakfast, lunch and dinner, because there was nobody to cook for me. While what I would buy from the supermarket did not differ a lot from what I would eat at home. I would still get a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, some whole grain bread, a lot of eggs, a lot less meat, mostly because the meat in Austria was more expensive. It's not anymore, but back at the time it was more expensive than back home. And secondly, because I did not feel like eating the entire package of meat the entire week, because once you open the package then you have to eat it or it spoils or you have to freeze it, but I did not feel like freezing it, so I just started eating meat less frequently and switched to eggs mostly. That was one diet change that I made, but apart from that it was more or less the same as it was back home. The one negative thing that happened is that because I was free to make my own choices, I was also free to exhibit my disordered eating behaviors. I did not know that I was susceptible to that, but I guess this is a consequence of the entire restrictive period that I had of the age of 12. If I believed that I overate the previous day, I would just skip breakfast usually. Here in Austria, the gyms are a lot nicer in terms of the environment. They're a lot bigger and they're also a lot less expensive compared to back home. You get a much higher quality for the price that you're paying. So I could finally go and have a proper gym routine and work out the way that I wanted to. At the same time, I would also go and overcompensate if I thought that I overate. This became a cycle, as you can imagine. I do not think that I can give myself a very specific diagnosis. I do not like it when people online diagnose themselves with a certain disorder without actually having been assessed by a specialist. Let's say that I was exhibiting symptoms of a bulimic disorder because of the entire overcompensation aspect of it, and I was also experiencing some binge eating episodes from time to time. If I had been in this restrictive cycle for a few days in a row, it would usually lead to episodes. That continued for maybe a year or two. I'm not sure really, but for the first few years at university were really hard for me in that aspect. It also, of course, took a toll on my mental health because of the guilt that one feels after those types of episodes, and it was not a very nice experience to have, as you can imagine, and it requires conscious effort for you to stop participating in these behaviors. I would have to force myself not to skip breakfast once I realized that I do not want to live my life like this anymore, which in the beginning is very hard because you have to fight the fear of weight gain, which sounds ridiculous maybe to people that have not experienced disordered eating, but if you have, then you know how hard it can be, and how, although you can think rationally that it is not going to lead to weight gain, your body just tells you otherwise. It definitely got better and my period was now regular and everything seemed to be okay. I was feeling mentally and physically well. I was also working out regularly. Everything was, let's say, healthy and nice. But here is where I want to say that disordered eating behaviors can come back. It is not something I believe that you are healed from for life. I did experience something last year around the second half of the year where I did not have a specific goal. I had just finished my practical part of the master's thesis and I wanted something to work towards. And this is at the same time that the Pilates body was trending a lot. I mean, it still is, but this is where it was on the rise. And I decided that I want to set this as my goal, which was not very smart because then I would have to lose all of the muscle mass that I had. So I stopped doing resistance training for my upper body and I just did a little bit for my lower body and a lot more cardio cardio than I was used to doing. This of course led to my period becoming irregular again and the loss of all of my upper body muscle mass. It was not that much to begin with, but I basically lost all of it, and I could feel that by all of the doors at university and also at my gym getting heavier. I was not able to use my back anymore and engage it if I wanted to open the door, and this is what made me really sad, because now I was aware that I am doing something that is not helping me even with my daily tasks, and I'm purely doing it for the aesthetics. Another thing that I forgot to mention, by the way, is that now I was aware that I am technically not doing my metabolism a favor. If you watched my video on metabolism, then you would know that I did my bachelor thesis on metabolism, so now I had a lot more knowledge as to what is good for my health nutrition wise and what not, and which behaviors are going to help me and which are not. I had to sort of try and convince myself that I'm not going to slow down my metabolism that much by losing all of my muscle mass and try to get into this delusional state, but deep down, because now I had a lot more knowledge than what I had when I was 12, I knew that I was harming myself, which is a very wild experience once you think of it. Technically I should be a professional and I should know better. It did not last long. You're going to see why. Also, I was trying to do more portion control. I had limited my caloric intake, not severely. I had cut out all of my snacks and I had stuck only to my main 3 courses, which were not as large as they usually would be, which led to my hunger signals getting chaotic, and I was hungry all of the time. I was going to bed ravenously hungry, not a little bit hungry, and I was thinking about food basically the entire day. This also led to a lot of anxiety around the holidays, which is not something that you want to have. You should be excited for going back home, as I am, because I do not live in my home country. You should be excited for spending time with your family and the moments that you're going to share with them. The concept of worrying about the Christmas food that is going to be available and will I gain weight from the Christmas food is just so miserable when you think about it in a retrospective sense, because you're missing out on so many positive emotions while worrying about the food that is going to be there that is not the food that you usually put on your own table. It is just so ridiculous. Anyways, I managed to not gain any weight during Christmas, but that lasted for 2 more months until I got really sick. In February, I guess my immune system just kind of gave out and I had to stay at home in bed for 2 weeks. So I gained some weight, logically, because now I could not do my excessive cardio workouts and I also was eating whatever. At the same time, I got onto ED recovery TikTok and had some reflective moments about the fear of weight gain controlling my life at the time. One of the things that I saw while being in bed and scrolling was that people are not going to remember you because of the way you looked in a bikini or in a dress. They're going to remember you because of the moments that you share with them and the experiences you had together and because of the kind of a person you are. And this really stuck with me. So I decided to make a very radical change in my eating behaviors and try to fix my constant hunger, which is something that Stephanie Buttermore, another YouTuber that I used to watch back in the day, did. She was experiencing something similar, so she did the so-called all-in, where she allowed herself to eat whatever she wanted until her hunger normalized. And this is something that I did as well while working out at the same time. I had now a proper gym routine. I stopped the excessive cardio and I just had a 3 or 4 day, I don't remember anymore, gym routine that I would do consistently while eating as much as I wanted to. In the beginning, it was pretty large portions. It is hard to accept yourself once you start getting a bit bigger and puffier because of the extra carbs, I suppose. I got really puffy and really bloated in the beginning for the first maybe a month or 2, and I am very grateful that I did it, because once this period passed, then I feel like my hunger levels normalized, which was really wild to me because I did not 100% believe that that could happen. This also logically led to the puffiness going away and I am not as bloated anymore by any means. After coming come and go this way. I believe that right now I am at a healthy place. A huge part of this is, of course, the knowledge that I have gained throughout my studies and also some extra readings that I do. On the last note, I want to share one story as a food for thought that my roommate told me when we were still living together. This was my third roommate at the dorm. She is from a Muslim country, so you can imagine that there was not a lot of exposure of the female body outright on billboards, on advertisements and all of that. I had never thought about this before, but then if you are not constantly being exposed to those images, you also do not really know what the ideal female body looks like exactly, because in Muslim countries, or at least in some of them, the clothing is very modest and it does not outline exactly the body of a person. According to her, this is why when she moved to Europe, then when she was exposed to all of these advertisements and to all of the women that would wear whatever they wanted and you could actually see what their bodies looked like, then she started being very conscious of what her own body looked like, which led to her wanting to lose weight. And the thing is that the ideal body type cannot be attained by everyone, and for her, because she is taller than me and she also has a strong build, she's by no means big or overweight or obese. She is just strong because she used to play a lot of basketball in her early days. Once she started engaging in diet culture behaviors, wanting to lose weight, over exercising, she also lost her period and started losing hairs. I couldn't really word what I wanted to say correctly, so it's editing clammy again here. With this story, I definitely did not mean that we in the West should cover ourselves up or remove all types of imagery of women from our advertisements or anything like this. This was not my main point. I just wanted to raise the question of, should really all girls of such a young age be exposed to this extent, to this kind of information, to the current female ideal body standard, which changes constantly? Could these young girls be concerned with maybe something else at a young age, such as developing their own hobbies, developing their own interests, instead of being obsessed with their physical appearance? I know this is not the case for every girl in the West, but it is definitely on a much larger scale than in countries where the female body is not on display everywhere. And I made this comparison to her experience in her childhood to my own experience in my head, as she was telling me stories about what they did while she was in school, when she was about the same age when I started calorie tracking and trying to lose weight. This was my main idea with telling this story, and if you have had a similar experience to me, then you know why reflecting on this in such a way can really make you sad about the past experiences that you've had and maybe the things that you have missed out on in your childhood. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit different from my usual ones. Let me know down in the comments below if you would like me to do a video on a specific topic next time. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe if you made it this far. Thank you again very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.